Hi class, for this Excel video I'm going to be showing you how to create graphs for quantitative data. I'll be using Excel 2016 for Max. Alright, so you're going to see some data that you probably recognize from earlier videos. This is the number of games that Wayne Gretzky played in per season that he was in the NHL. So we might want to look at this data to try to figure out what it's telling me or telling us. So in order to do that, we're going to create a histogram. To create a histogram in Excel, we need to make sure that we have what's called the analysis tool pack turned on. In order to do that, we're going to go up to Tools, and you'll see Add-ins and Analysis Tool Pack. I just want to make sure that's turned on. If you're using a version of Excel that is older, you may not see this, and we'll have to talk about how you can go ahead and do some of the same kinds of things in a different version. But I really do strongly encourage you to update your version of 2016, whether you're in Windows or Mac. Okay, so we've got our analysis tool pack turned on. In order to access it, we're going to go to Data and Data Analysis, and we're going to see a lot of things come up. Okay, so I want to make a histogram, so I'm just going to say OK. And my input range is my data. So I'm just going to highlight that, click on my arrow, and I don't have any bins. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I'm just going to delete that out. And yes, I do have labels in the first row, and my output range, I guess, I don't know, I'll put it right here. I'll just put it in this cell. And I do want to make a chart, so I'm going to say OK. So what we see is Excel created a histogram for us. We'll talk about what's wrong with this in a minute. But you'll see first this over here. Okay, so what Excel did for us is it created the bins, right, the little containers for our information to fall into. All right, so the way that it set that is it's setting the bins by setting the maximum value for that bin. So 45 represents the maximum value for the bin, so there's only one value that's 45. That's why it has a frequency of 1. Now, this bin contains all values that are 54.25 and below until it gets to the next bin. So basically, 46 to 54.25. The next one is above 54.25 all the way up to and including 63.5. Okay, so it's basically giving the max value to be included in every bin. We can talk about why these numbers are weird in a second, but we're going to go over here and talk about why this in itself is also weird. So it says it's titled histogram. We can easily change that to, I don't know, we'll just call it Gretzky number of games per season. Instead of just calling it bin, we're going to call it number of games per season. And it's true that this is a frequency, so that's fine. But we'll notice one major problem with this histogram is the bars are not touching. That's a requirement, okay, to show that it's continuous data. So I'm going to click here, just double click on it, and you'll see here that it says gap width. We just want to turn that to 0, and then it'll make a proper histogram. Okay, so a couple issues. There aren't really very many bars. Okay, that's fine. I guess like this would be a unimodal distribution, strongly skewed to the left. It has a gap, centered probably over here somewhere, right? Because we want to talk about shape, center, and spread. But it's got some issues. So I don't know. What I really don't like is that my bins have numbers that they end with that are not actual potential data numbers. Wayne Gretzky did not play ever in 54.25 games. That doesn't really make a lot of sense as a measurement. So what we can do is set our own bins. So I want to show you how to do that. So to set our own bins, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say bin. And I don't know, why don't we set our bins to be a little bit smaller? We'll get some more bars and set the maximums that are actual values that we have. So why don't we go by 5s? I'm going to set the first maximum at 50 and 55. We may get too many bins, but that's okay. 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. Have I gotten up to my maximum? Yep, so this top, oh, no I haven't. And then 85. All right, so I'm telling it what bins to use. So then when I go back and I say data, data analysis, histogram, still the input range is that A column, but I'm going to tell it what bins to use. I'm going to highlight my bins. And click back here. Everything else is cool. I might want my output somewhere new, so I'm going to click on this arrow. Let's put our output down here. And we do want a chart, so we're good. Say OK. All right. So now it's done our frequencies for us. That's actually a really nice feature. Okay, so regardless of whether we want to make a histogram or not, it's nice to know sometimes how many fall within each. But we can really see a lot of values are falling within this category. That means between 76 and 80 games. There were 10 instances between 76 and up to and including 80. Okay, so that's what this is telling me. Then it creates a histogram. I know I need to go and fix my, I know I need to go and fix my histogram. Okay, I'm going to retitle it Gretzky number games per season. Retitle this generic bin to be number games per season. Okay, and the last thing I have to do is make sure my bins or my bars touch each other. So I'm going to double click. And if it doesn't show me what I want, oops, I'm only clicked one. Okay, click. If it doesn't show it to me, it's really this that I want. Okay, so I want gap width right here to be 0. All right, looks a little more reasonable. I like this a little bit better. It has more bars for me, but I'm still probably going to say this is unimodal, skewed to the left with a pretty large gap. Okay, so that gap showed up here, but I think it's more obvious here. And it's probably centered up here. I would use median to describe this distribution because it's skewed. And spread is really only useful when I'm comparing two distributions. Okay, so that's it for creating a histogram in Excel.